Now we have reactions on messages. We need to display those reactions. So all of that should happen inside the message component. I don't think we need any of these others for that. So we just kind of want them to be, if you remember before we positioned this button, it just appeared right under the body, which is where we want it. So let's just put it there. Let's put it right after body. And what we want to do is, so message.reactions could still be undefined. So up here, I'll say const reactions equals message.reactions or empty array, object, right? Yeah, object. So then down here, I'll go object.keys reactions .map. So each one of those, that'll be an array of emojis now, right? Not of the whole, not of the actual array of users, but just the emojis, because those are the keys in that object. So each thing is an emoji. I always try to be careful to use sensible names for these arguments inside map. So for right now, just to, as a proof of concept or something, I'm going to spit out an LI that says something like which emoji it is and how many. So how many would be message dot reactions square bracket that emoji dot length. Make sense? So message dot reactions is an object, and at each key we have an array of users. So the length should tell us how many times it's been done. So let's check it out. Okay, and I have hamburger 1. Cool. What if I had hamburger again? There, I have hamburger 2. And I had squirrel. I have there chipmunk. Chipmunk 1, hamburger 2. Okay, that seems to work. So now we just need it to display the actual emoji. Yeah.
So if you go back to your add reaction
Mm-hmm.
method, you're passing in like the message argument, a reference to props.messages as an argument, and then you're changing one of that object's properties. So
Without making a copy of it.
yeah, isn't that certain?
Yeah, it kind of doesn't matter because I'm not relying on that change to redraw, to actually redraw that component. I'm actually changing state at the end of this, and that's what's going to make render actually run. If you were really concerned about it, is technically passing it as reference, so you could, wherever we are, handle emoji select. You could pass in a copy of that if you wanted.
Okay, so you can change things. You just have to be careful because they won't cause redraws.
Right, yeah, it's not recommended because it doesn't do, you should treat them as immutable because it doesn't do the thing that you want to happen when your props change. But yeah, passing it around to something else, yeah. We can make it a copy just to be good citizens and make sure it still works. Yeah, good question. Okay, here we go. So we're spitting it out like this. That's probably not how we actually want these to show up. It's probably worth, I'm probably going to do enough CSS on this that it's worth making this a separate component. Plus, it feels like it should be because message is doing a lot now. So let's just make a new component called reaction. Reaction.js. I don't think it needs to be a class. So we'll just import React from React. I'll go ahead and just use Aphrodite from the get-go. Does this use it? No, does this? Yes. So import style sheet and CSS from Aphrodite. Const reaction equals an arrow function that returns some JSX. I will export default reaction. I'll have a little style object down here, so const styles equals stylesheet.create. Some object. So for each thing in this array, what I really want to do, instead of spitting out an LI, I want to spit out a reaction. So let's import reaction here. So what will I need to know? What props will I need to send into reaction? I definitely need to know what the emoji was. I need to know what the message was, and I need to know the list of, so I can get the list of reactions from the message. And at least in Slack, if you go and then click on one of these, you can just quickly add another one of the same one, right? You can add the same reaction again without having to use the emoji, the full emoji menu here. So we'll pass in add reaction as well. So we'll pass in message equal message, emoji equal emoji, and add reaction equals this.props.add reaction. So message, emoji, and add reaction. So let's break these out. Message, emoji, add reaction. So if I'm going to make clicking those increment the count for that particular emoji, then I guess I'll make my reaction element actually a button as opposed to an LI or something. And the one I want to display in there is both the emoji and the number of times I've clicked it. So before I was just actually spitting out the little colon representation. But I want to, let's see, we can see what this gives us. Make sure we don't have any errors yet. I have one error. That's probably just a warning. Yep, the warning that I didn't pass in a key prop. So you remember that? When you're using map like this, you need to pass in a key. So there's only going to be one of these per emoji per message. So that should be adequate. And I have Chipmunk Hamburger laughing like that. So that much works. But I want to actually show the emoji. So emoji mart, you may remember, doesn't just include that picker component. It also includes an emoji component. So you can import emoji from emoji mart. And then you just say emoji, emoji prop equals, and then that colon representation, and then a size, I guess. 16 is the default they seem to suggest, so we'll just use that. So here, instead of just printing out colon chipmunk colon, we'll print out this emoji component that we imported. Pass in the prop emoji equals the emoji that we passed in. And sure, we'll say size equals 16. As the number 16, not the string 16, so curly braces. See what that gets us. Cool. There's all the stuff I've reacted with. Of course, the buttons are not styled the way that I like them to be styled. So let's just style that rascal. A lot of times I get rid of borders on buttons. This one I actually want it to look like a button, but I want it to be little rounded corners. Let's not obsess too much over each little thing. Let me just put in the styles that I already wrote. Here we go. I will indeed. I have one more style that I'm going to add, so I'll do it after I do that. So the button, I will put, it'll have an on click, of course, so I'll also say class name equals CSS styles dot button. And I may as well go ahead and put on click equals an arrow function that calls add reaction with this message and that emoji. Let's see how that looks. Each one looks a little better, but they're stacked on top of each other, which I don't like, but we can deal with that in a minute. And they need to have the count next to it. So after the actual emoji here, we need to put the count. And I want to style that too, so I'll put it inside a span. And the count is simply message dot reactions square bracket emoji, that emoji, right? That gives me that array of users. And then I want the length of that. That's the count. That's the number of times people have reacted with this particular one. See how that looks? Cool, I've got the number next to it, but there's no space around it. It's really squished up next to that. So yeah, we'll put a little style on that thing too. Here's my style for the button. We'll add a style for the count. Doesn't need to be complicated. Let's just give it a little bit of a left margin. Margin left. Doesn't need to be much. 1/4 of a rim should be fine. And I want the font size to be fairly small. 0.6 rim. Whoops, I didn't mean to hit enter. I meant to hit single quote. So this span, class name, CSS count, styles.count. There we go. Now each one looks pretty decent. Does my on click work? Yeah, now I got 3 hamburgers. Cool. So here is my entire reaction.js in Slack. And back in message, I think I need to style the whole list of reactions so that they're side by side instead of one on top of another. So I wish I had wrapped all these in a div, so I'll just do that real quick. There we go. I have a div, and inside that div, I loop over this. So that div is reactions. So here we go. Reactions or reaction list, whatever you want to call it. You want to call it reaction list, that's fine. And I'll say display flex so that they're side by side. And I'll put a little space above them between the body of the message and the actual list of reactions. So I'll put a little margin top. Again, not much. Half a rim is good. So here's that div. This is using Aphrodite, so class name equals CSS styles.reactionList. Yeah, there we go. Just like the real thing. Yeah. Now we got ourselves a real Slack clone. So here is my entire message component after I've done that. Display reactions on messages. We can add them, we can show them. Everything's groovy.